charged with a crime in the state are presumed innocent.
Why are we hearing Susan Headline?
Until you decide otherwise and you enter a plea of guilty, or you go to trial after hearing the evidence, the finder of fact finds you guilty beyond
The Rika's in her court. The Rika's in court with her.
Oh,
That's why we found out. So,
gotcha.
the judge. We have not had jury trials.
I just muted her. Okay. Is that also a court she works in? I didn't know that.
yeah.
I guess Dustin's coming in. I'm not sure we need. And I do have a court reporter. Okay, I see Miss Fowler here. Who else is here?
Barbara and
Oh,
Fowler.
Fowler, okay. I feel pretty certain we'll need takedown on this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Judge, I'm here.
Thank you. Yeah, I now I see you both.
Okay.
All right, we're waiting for, oh, who's chatting me? Oh, there she is. I'm in the court with Judge Edline. Okay, yes, I put them in a breakout room.
And then, Your Honor, I did want to make you aware, Miss Jackson, the victim, she's working to get her camera on. I think she's having some IT issues, if you will.
Okay. That's true. She may need to log off and log back on.
Miss Jackson, did you hear that?
I think she's on mute.
Yes, I did. I'm actually leaving the meeting now and waiting to be added on my.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. We'll see if that works. All right, and we're going to wait for, is Daryl back? Okay. Well, we see you, Miss Jackson, but you're upside down.
I'm back.
Give me a
Thank
second.
you. Miss Jackson, you're upside down. Do you have any idea why that might be?
It's probably just the fact that my computer is.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is the matter of Kevin Patrick, or Estate versus Kevin Patrick, case number 20 CR 003053J. The defendant is represented by Mr. Daryl Coleman, and Mr. Ian Walker is the prosecutor here on behalf of the state. Let me go ahead. I know this matter has been reset several times. We do have on the call as well, besides Mr. Patrick, is the victim, Miss Anise Jackson. I believe we have potentially an officer as a witness, and Miss Mitchell, Derica Mitchell, the victim advocate, is on the call along with Investigator Brock. So let me go ahead and I guess ask Mr. Walker for the record, to state the basis for the motion to revoke bond.
Yes, Your Honor. Ian Walker on behalf of the state. The basis of this motion is that the defendant, Mr. Kevin Patrick, was arrested December 22nd in 2019 on the charge of battery with family violence. The defendant was able to bond out in that matter, and the condition of his bond was to have no further contact with Anise Jackson. The special conditions of that bond was included in this motion that was filed in November of last year. Subsequent to him bonding out and while being out on bond with this special condition of not having any contact with the victim, Denise Jackson, there was a subsequent incident, March 24th of 2020, where East Point Police Department did respond to a domestic violence call. I do have the victim here this morning to testify to that incident and to describe the violent contact that occurred on that day at the hands of Mr. Patrick, which of course would be in violation of his bond.
Very good. Thank you. And let me go ahead. I did let somebody else in.
Yes, I think that's the arresting officer,
Okay.
Wilkins. I think she's trying to log on to the call.
Okay, I've got someone with an iPhone on, so I don't know if they're trying to connect. All right. Mr. Coleman, did you want to make any just introductory comments, or just should we go ahead with the evidence?
No, Your Honor, we can just proceed with the motion.
All right, first witness, Mr. Walker.
I had planned to call Officer Wilkins. I'm not sure. I just got a message saying that she was trying to log on. I'm not.
She's logged in.
Okay, so if Officer Wilkins, if you could turn on your camera, please.
I think so. All right.
I'm here.
And all right. And so let me state for the record in my own notes, what is the officer's name?
Brittany, I think it's B. Wilkins, but you can.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, Officer Wilkins, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this matter is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Brittany Wilkins.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Good morning, Ms. Wilkins. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you please advise the court how you were employed on March 24th of 2020?
You said what?
Can you please advise the court of how you were employed on March 24th of 2020?
I was employed with the City of East Point Police Department,
Okay, and what was your title within the police department?
a police officer.
Okay, and at that time, how long have you been serving as an officer?
A year.
Okay, and were you post-certified at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and on that date, did you have the opportunity to respond to a domestic violence call at 2340 Sim Street?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
could you say that address again? And if I could ask you just to speak a little slower, because we do have people doing takedown and
Yeah.
virtually it's a little difficult it's more difficult than when they're here.
Understood, Your Honor. On that date, did you have the opportunity to respond to 2340 Sim Street in East Point, Georgia?
Yeah.
And do you recall the nature of that call?
It was a domestic violence call.
Okay, and do you remember speaking to the victim on that date?
Yes.
Okay, can you please advise the court what you were advised of by the victim in this case?
Yes. She basically stated that her and her boyfriend were having a conversation, I guess, about him cheating on her or something like that. And he had like a blister on his lip. And they were also arguing about him having an STD.
Okay, and did the did the victim advise that there was any type of physical contact that was made between the defendant and her?
Yes, sir. She stated that he choked her. And he
Okay,
also stuck a gun in her face, or pointed a gun in her face.
okay, and do you recall seeing any visible injuries on that particular date?
I can't recall. I don't recall what I saw on that day. I don't recall.
Okay, and you advised that the victim advised that a weapon was involved. Was there a search that was conducted in the home?
Yes, sir.
Was there
Yes, sir.
anything that was found?
Yes, sir. It was a magazine with that had ammo in it.
Okay, and was that taken into custody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then based on your investigation, who did you determine was the primary aggressor in this incident?
I determined Mr. Patrick was the primary aggressor.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, officer, do you know who was on the lease at that address at 2340 Sim Street?
No, sir. Excuse me. No, sir, I don't recall.
And were there any independent witnesses that you spoke to at that time, other
No, sir.
than the alleged victim, Ms. Jackson?
No, sir.
And regarding any injuries, you said you weren't sure if you observed any injuries to Ms. Jackson.
I don't recall. I don't remember.
And did you recover a firearm at that address at that time?
No, sir, I couldn't locate it in the house or the backyard. Or-
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
And if I could just have one brief second for redirect, Your Honor.
Yes.
The
Yes.
firearm that you indicated that was found, do you recall where it was found on the property, Officer Wilkins?
The magazine, I think it was found in the front yard or the backyard. I can't remember either.
But it was found on the property.
Yes, sir.
And was this the magazine that was advised to you that was used by the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nothing further from the state.
All right, and let me just state for the record, because I had to look actually on the police report to get the correct spelling. The address in question, as I understand it, is 2430 Semmes Street, Semmes Street. Is that correct, officer?
Yes, sir. It's Sam Street.
Okay, that's how it's spelled in the police report. Okay, thank you. Any further questions for this officer?
None from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Coleman,
No further questions.
may the officer be excused?
She may, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Officer Wilkins. You're free to go. Next witness, please.
The state would like to call Anise Jackson.
All right, Ms. Jackson, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give in this case is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you state your name, please, for the record?
Anise Jackson.
And that's spelled Anise Jackson, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Walker.
Good morning, Ms. Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay. I would like to bring your attention to the day of March 24th, 2020. Were you involved in a domestic violence situation with Mr. Patrick on that day?
Yes.
Could you please advise to the court what were the circumstances that led to that altercation?
Mr. Patrick had a type of pustule or pimple on his genitalia. And because we had been together for a long time and I'm a professional cosmetologist, I attempted to assist him with it and he began to get irate. Things got physical. He wound up hitting me in the face with the gun. And I had to attempt to get the gun away from him.
All right, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We lost that. Say that again. He hit you in the face.
He hit me in the face with the gun. After pointing it at me, he did pistol me in my mouth, and I received a double busted lip, so my top and bottom lip are busted, as well as bruising on my gums that I didn't notice until days later. I had to wrestle the gun away from him, and once I was able to just wrestle the clip away, I ran out and threw it into the backyard and proceeded to seek shelter in the garage.
Okay, and during this physical altercation, was any threats being made? What was being said, or do you recall at all?
I remember there was a lot of cursing, there was a lot of yelling, and there was a lot of calling me out of my name, and saying that he was going to kill me.
Okay. And do you recall if the officer took pictures of you on that day?
Yeah. It was only of my lips.
Okay, and if you saw those pictures, would you recognize them?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask for permission to share my screen to show the pictures to Ms. Jackson to see if she recognizes the pictures that were taken.
Um,
I'm going to object. I would prefer that I have actual copies of those photographs.
Well, the discovery statute applies to trial and the photos were sent to you, Mr. Coleman.
I did receive an email yesterday afternoon with some photographs. I was able to view those through the email. However, when I did try to forward them to Mr. Patrick so he could view them as well, the email came back as the file was too big. So again, I think I'm at somewhat of a disadvantage since Mr. Patrick is not able to view those photographs as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to overrule the objection and permit, I've granted Mr. Walker the ability as a co-host to share screen, and you can certainly publish those to everyone on the call.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Assuming you're
I'm
technically
gonna try my
able
best
to
to share
do
my
that.
screen, so if you guys could just bear with me, let me see. Think. Okay, can you guys see this photo?
Now, yes,
Yeah.
I can.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Jackson, is that you in the photo?
Yes.
And was this the photo that was taken directly after the incident?
Yes.
Okay, and is this the injury that you sustained from Mr. Patrick pistol whipping you?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it might be a second photo. Again, is this you, Ms. Jackson?
Give me a second. I'm not getting anything on my screen.
Okay.
Actually, I'm not either. It's
I
not
don't see
showing up.
anything either.
Okay. Let me see. Let me try to go back to the Zoom app. Okay, let me try this way.
Do the original bond, Aisha, in the file? No, I don't see it here either. I mean, I'm.
Can you guys see this photo now, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, Ms. Jackson, is this you in this photo?
Yes.
And is this the same injury that was sustained from the injuries that were caused to you by Mr. Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. So after you were able to—
Are you finished sharing screen?
I am, Your Honor.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
After you were able to get the firearm away from Mr. Patrick, could you please advise us what happened?
During this whole time, I had been attempting. During this time, I had been attempting to reach anyone to help me get him to psychiatric, because I was fearing that he was having a mental breakdown or overdose or something, and I was trying to help him. But once he brandished a weapon and I was scared, I called a friend to help. And I was in the garage, cowering, crying, begging my friend to come help me take him to Grady. At this moment, my friend chose to call the police, unbeknownst to me. I had no clue that was happening. And I don't know if anything would have changed if I did, but I was in the garage, and he ran outside and yelled, "You called the fucking police? You're trying to get me arrested? How dare you? You called the police." So that's how I found out that the police were called and the police were there. After that, I spoke to the police, recanted what was happening, and insisted even then that I was worried about his mental health and I would like for them to to do checks to make sure that if he was having some kind of mental breakdown, he would get help.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions, Mr. Coleman, of the witness?
Just a few, Your Honor. Were there any other witnesses to this incident, Ms. Jackson?
Not to the actual incident.
And you said it was not you that called the police, it was rather a friend?
It was one of my long college on the phone with attempting, because he's a pretty big gentleman. I was attempting to have him come to my home to help me get him to Grady.
Okay, but again, it was not you that called the police, rather it was this friend?
It wasn't, because Mr. Patrick is quite bigger than me. There was no way I was able to get him to medical treatments by myself. And my friend later told me the reason why he lied to me was he was afraid for my life.
And did you seek any medical treatment? Did you request any medical treatment for your injuries at that time, ma'am?
I didn't go for physical injuries, but I did have to go to therapy.
Okay.
And have to take medication.
And since that date of March 24th of last year, have you tried to initiate any contact with Mr. Patrick?
Mr. Patrick initiated most contact. If I had contact with Mr. Patrick that I initiated, it was about returning my keys or my property or paying for the damages that he caused throughout all of this.
So again, my question was, had you at any time initiated contact with Mr. Patrick since that date? And your answer is yes?
My answer is that I would assume that because I was informed that I could contact Mr. Patrick about my keys, belongings, and damages, that I did contact him. But seeing to how it's been a year, I will tell you that I know Mr. Patrick did contact me to initiate contact for most part.
Okay. And the address 2340 Sim Street, there's an apartment?
It is a home.
It is a private home?
It's a rented home.
Okay. And your name is on the lease at that home?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if Mr. Patrick's name is also on that lease?
He manipulated and refused to be on the lease when we moved in.
So again, is the answer yes or no if he's on the lease?
I think I was very clear. Yes. His name is not on the lease because of manipulation.
Okay.
So we'll find out without a hearing?
I don't think I have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Okay.
Well, actually, I do have one further question. Were you present in court when the special condition of bond was issued, ma'am?
When he was, every time he was arrested, I attempted.
All right, let me just, you need to clarify, we have two cases here we're talking about. So Mr. Coleman, if you could clarify which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a special condition of bond that was issued, I believe, on December 22nd of 2019. Were you present in court, Ms. Jackson, on that date?
I was informed I could not be present because I was the victim. I called everybody I could to find Mr. Patrick, and then was told after he was released, and that was all I was told. So I was not at the court case because I was informed I could not be at the court case.
Okay. And did you request that Mr. Patrick not have any further contact with you on or about that date of December 22nd, 2019?
I did file a TPO that I later revoked, and it was about 2 weeks later.
All right. Thank you.
And I just have a few moments for follow-up, Your Honor.
Yes, before you do that though, could someone let me know, I've been looking for the December 22nd special conditions bond. Does anyone have that?
It should be included in the motion that was filed, Your Honor.
All right. I'll look. I'm not sure I saw that, but
Let me count what page it is. So when I printed it off of Odyssey, it was page 3 for me.
yes, I have it. Thank you very much. That's what I've been looking for. Okay, did you have any questions, Mr. Walker? And I'm sorry, I'm on my other laptop here when I'm
Ms.
trying to work.
Jackson, you stated that you took out a TPO, but you later canceled the TPO. Can you please advise the court why you did that or what led up to that?
Print that for me. I showed that one page.
Mr. Patrick
No.
led me to believe that the court case,
Actually, I can
that
print it.
everything was in my control, and that it was all my fault, and that I needed to cancel the TPO. It wasn't even a led to believe. It was you have to do it. If you want us to be happy, you have to do it. It's all in your control. So I was under the belief that he didn't have a no contact,
I'm not
that I
hooked
was
up
the
to
reason
that.
why he could not
You'll have to do it.
because he used those.
Okay, nothing further.
Thank you.
Excuse
Just 1
me.
minute.
Excuse me, this is a court reporter. Could I get her to repeat that last answer because she was fading in and out?
Miss Jackson, can you repeat that?
Yes, I stated that Mr. Patrick led me to believe that the court case, the non-contact, the temporary orders, all of all of that was in my control as the victim. That I was what was keeping my family apart. So the reason why I closed those TPOs was I was under the belief that he was receiving therapy, that he was getting clean, and that we were going to be our family, which was our two dogs, at the time our dog. So I canceled the TPO. He also led me to believe that the dog was in danger. He told me that the home that they were living in was not secure for the animal, which in the same sense meant it was not secure for him. That there was no backyard, and that the dog didn't have a safe place to stay because people were just weird over there. And those were his statements.
Understood. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay,
I did have, just one
Yes,
other
go ahead.
question, Your Honor.
go ahead.
Ms. Jackson, was Mr. Patrick present at that address at 2340 Sim Street on March 24th of last year at your invitation?
No, not from what I remember. From what I remember, he and I had came to understanding he needed to move, and it was more of a mutual agreement to get back together and work on things.
So you're saying that it was a mutual agreement that he be at their residence on that date of March 24th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
All right, next witness, Mr. Walker.
The state has no further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Coleman, do you have any witnesses to present?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
Okay. I'll hear argument then.
The state will reserve for close.
Okay, Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we're present before the court today on the state's motion to revoke Mr. Patrick's bond. I would argue against that. We've heard testimony from the officer. There were allegations that Mr. Patrick had assaulted Ms. Jackson with a firearm. However, no firearm was recovered despite the testimony from Ms. Jackson that did in fact occur. I would also point out that there were no witnesses to this incident, that she was not the one who called the police, but rather a friend of hers. Also, I think it's important to point out that even though he is before the court today on a motion to revoke bond, by her own admission, it was Ms. Jackson's agreement to allow Mr. Patrick to move back into the residence. So this is a situation where the alleged victim in this case encouraged and perpetuated the contact between herself and my client.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor, a couple of things. Oftentimes we find in domestic violence cases, oftentimes there are no witnesses other than the perpetrator and the victim. Oftentimes we know in domestic violence cases, it's not the victim who calls. Oftentimes it's neighbors, loved ones, or friends who are concerned. We heard the testimony from Ms. Jackson this morning, who stated that Mr. Kevin Patrick physically assaulted her. At the end of the day, Whether the victim acquiesced to having contact with Mr. Patrick or not, one thing she did not acquiesce in was having physical violent contact with Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick is out on bond on battery family violence. As the court has before it, is the special conditions of that bond. Special condition A, have no further contact with Anise Jackson. Condition B, to not threaten or disturb the peace of that relationship. Condition C, to not have any phone contact. Condition D, this order shall remain in effect until further order of a court of competent jurisdiction. There was no court of jurisdiction that told Mr. Patrick that he was able to have contact with the victim, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson also testified that Mr. Patrick led her to believe or made her feel guilty into allowing him to come back to the home. Ms. Jackson is the victim in this case. There are photographs of Ms. Jackson with a busted lip that the court saw this morning, which aligns with Ms. Jackson's testimony. And although there was not a firearm found, there was a fully loaded magazine clip that was found and recovered by officers. And one thing for certain is Mr. Patrick was arrested by East Point Police Department on March 24th, 2020, which was in direct violation of his bond of having no contact. He has an open felony case and result of that initiation. And as we all know, the burden to arrest an individual is probable cause. The burden this morning is preponderance of the evidence. There has been ample and sufficient evidence that goes beyond, I would say, preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Patrick did in fact have contact with Ms. Jackson. And not only did he have contact, he had violent contact in direct violation of his bond. So in lieu or in result of those violations, the court or the state urges this court to revoke Mr. Patrick's bond for the safety of the victim, Ms. Jackson.
All right, and does anyone know, Mr. Walker, I'm just looking at the second case. It's been transferred to
I have a
Superior
DA
Court. Do you know what the status is of that?
I do not know what the status is. I do have the DA number if that would help you.
Okay, what is that?
Is 20 DA 039.
I'm sorry, 20 what?
D as in David, A as in Alpha.
Okay.
03983.
Okay, are those the numbers that you're using now?
That's
DA numbers? Okay.
That's correct. Well, for Superior Court, Your Honor, yes.
Right. 3983. Let me just, if I can look, oh, I'm not finding a match. I'm not finding a match.
Okay, when I typed in by his name, Kevin Patrick, both of the cases came up, I believe. I could research.
Okay. Well, yeah, I did that. All I have is the state court case number. Let me just look again. 3059. It says transfer, and I'm not showing a number, but okay. Case cross-reference, I'm just showing the previous numbers. Do you think that's it, Aisha? Yeah, I'm basically just showing that this has been closed because it's transferred or removed, but I'm not showing. We're not showing it. Okay. Related cases. It's not coming up either. Right, that's what I tried. All right. Okay. Well, we have a situation here where there was an initial incident dated 12/22/19. At that time, there was a special conditions bond entered. I'm a little surprised for the city of East Point for a case such as this involving a battery family violence, that the bond did not also include that a special condition would have meant that the defendant was not permitted to be in possession of a firearm, but it does not state that in the special conditions bond. It does state no further contact and not to threaten or disturb the peace or obviously harass, intimidate, or disturb the peace of the alleged victim. I think Miss Jackson, my notes here, she may have executed poor judgment to either have the defendant move back in or to have contact with him, but I don't think it excuses the fact that he threatened her, and based on the photographs and the testimony from both the officer, Officer Wilkins, and the victim, Miss Jackson, that the defendant did violate the terms of the special conditions bond. I am going to revoke his bond at this time, and I'm particularly concerned that he was in possession of a weapon. So at this time, I'm going to revoke his bond, and he's going to need to turn himself in. Mr. Coleman, do you want to have a moment to speak with Mr. Patrick to arrange for a time for him to turn himself in?
Yes, Your Honor. I did want to know the amount of the bond, since the bond does have to be set.
Your Honor, the defendant is entitled to a bond. However, if the bond is revoked, the amount does not have to be set.
Well, let me just say, we normally do set an amount. I'm going to set an amount at $50,000.
And at the request of the state, if Mr. Patrick were to bond out, could we request that there be a no firearms provision?
So that is in the current, I can do that. That's in the current no contact. I'm sorry, that's in the current bond order for the subsequent case. In the March 22nd, 2020 bond or first appearance court action, it does say that, well, no, I'll take that back. It just said he had a gun. Clearly, he should not be in possession of a firearm.
And we will also request, if the defendant were to bond out, that ankle monitor be required.
We would object to that. Mr. Patrick is likely not going to be able to make this bond, and even if he is, that would be an additional financial burden on him to
It
get
was
an
my
ankle.
understanding that the jail was providing ankle monitoring services throughout the pandemic at no cost to the defendant.
Okay. And is this $50,000 bond, is this surety or is this cash?
Cash. Yeah, I mean, this is and again, I'm not sure that the victim perhaps understood. And I don't know, so let me back up. The order from East Point did not outline as best as I would have liked in terms of, it did say no further contact. I don't know that Miss Jackson had a copy of that very often. And I don't know under East Point protocol if they have a victim witness program or what she was informed of or not. But as I said, probably not the best judgment to have Mr. Patrick back at her residence, but I have concerns that he did threaten her with an already open pending case, potentially was in possession of a firearm, and did seem to attack her to where there was photographic evidence of her injuries. I'm just going to leave the bond as is, $50,000 cash. Obviously, Mr. Coleman, you may want to have some discussions about, I don't know when we're going to be having jury trials, but
Yeah, that's what's going to be my next request, that we have a trial date as soon as possible.
Okay. And
it's my understanding, I think I saw something the other day that they're going to try to resume trials next month.
we are yes, I think the plan is to at least start some civil trials next month. I still think criminal trials, we are probably a few months out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they're going to give priority to the felony superior court cases when it comes to that.
They will, but we're also going to have, obviously, state court will have the ability to handle those folks that are still in jail that, and he is going to have the opportunity, I feel certain, to appear on several SAP calendars. So you may discuss that with him, what his options might be. Not today, but let me at least put you in a room with him and get a turn-in date and time. Today is Tuesday. I would like something within the next 48 hours. But let me
Thank
put you in a room and speak with him. Before, I'm going to let Miss Jackson go,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna
unless
request
she
that I
wants
can
to stay on the call,
Can I be placed in the breakout room with Ms. Jackson also and the victim advocate?
that's fine.
Also,
Because I do want her to be clear from this point forward that this is a no contact. And obviously that no contact applies to Mr. Patrick, but Ms. Jackson, when you seek assistance from the court, when you've been involved in an incident, if you don't assist the court or you yourself don't abide by the terms of the special conditions bond and place yourself potentially in danger, it makes it difficult for the court to then, when you are then back in front of me, to say you didn't do anything to help yourself. And I'm not excusing his behavior by any means. And again, I'm not sure what you did or didn't know about the first special conditions bond. So I'm giving you the benefit of doubt on that. The East Point's bond is not, and I know they don't have the same resources we have in terms of victim witness and so forth. So I don't know what you did know, but from this point forward, I think Mr. Walker is going to advise you that you are not to have any contact with Mr. Patrick. And then if he does reach out or try to make any contact with you, then obviously you need to contact Miss Mitchell. But I'm going to put the three of you in a breakout room and they can discuss that with you. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to put you also, Daryl and
Yes,
Mr.
I'm here.
Patrick. Can you, Mr. Patrick, there should be a way for you to rejoin breakout room 1. I don't know if you're able to do that. It's a little tricky. But if you are, you should be able to rejoin. I'm sorry, breakout room 2. There he goes to breakout room 2, Daryl. And
All
then
right.
Mr. Walker, you should go to 1. And
All
I'm
right.
also going to put Miss Mitchell and
Thank-
Miss Jackson in breakout room 1.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I guess I have to do written order, don't I?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get a turn and date and time, and I'll put that in here.
And you're gonna want this to go to SAP? Because generally we keep these.
Oh, well,
I have another one. We hope it's gone. Handle it eventually.
that's a good question. Actually, I don't care if he goes on SAP because he may decide to.
Okay,
My only concern is the victim not knowing.
exactly.
So would they notify the victim if it goes on SAP?
That's the question they want to ask.
All right.
Different solicitors on SAP. The different public defenders, and we know Jasmine fussed about that in the past.
Yes, well, they're going to have to learn to work together. That's all I have on that.
But she was saying that they're not at it. Other, public defenders. We don't know.
Because we're not having any jail calendars yet, are we?
I mean,
Well, we're going to be having those new calendars,
that's what I
right?
was saying, I could-
Let's put him on one of those.
that's what I was
Let's do that.
thinking. Another one that's on
And I think I'm only going to do that once every 2 weeks.
there. Okay,
I think
that's fine.
1 week, half the judges, and the other next week, the other half.
Mhm.
I'm not, I didn't get the impression we were doing that every week.
Okay.
And I don't know how long that's going to last because I am not sure how much longer the solicitor is going to be in accusing everything, but
Oh,
because I don't think that's been quite as successful as they would have hoped.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know what they expect him to do. I mean, he shows up with a gun. To do trial notices. What's the date? Oh. They're not all back.
Okay. And I just asked the victim to return so you could excuse her, Your Honor.
Well, she may want to just wait and see what the turn-in date's going to be.
Okay.
I mean, you're welcome to go, Miss Jackson, but in a minute, I'm going to get a turn-in date from Mr. Jackson's attorney.
I'll wait for the turn date for Mr. Patrick.
Okay. Well, at least I've already got a. Whatever bond I originally did, at least I've got some of that already done. I'm going to give him another minute or so, and then I may give him a little nudge, a little technological nudge. There they come. Let's see, Mr. Coleman, I wanted to get your, Mr. Patrick, let me see if I can get him back here. Main session, here he comes. All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Coleman, did you discuss that with your client?
I did. I don't want to know, were we done with Miss Jackson at this point?
We are, but she wanted to stay on the call to see what the turn-in date was.
We don't have an exact turn-in date. The thing is, I did not really want Miss Jackson to know where Mr. Patrick is at this time. Obviously, he's not going to try to initiate any contact with her, but I prefer that she not have any information as to where he is at this time.
I don't care where it is. I want to make sure I'm
Ms. Jackson, I got this. Your Honor, under Marcy's law, the victim is entitled to be present during all proceedings of
Right.
adjudication, if you will. So
let me
entitled to be here.
Let me just say, I need the information about turn-in, but when I will let you, Mr. Coleman, submit his address to Miss Hardy privately by way of chat. How's that? Or email.
Well, actually, what I have, and I was going to forward it to the court as well, is a treatment plan that I have for Mr. Patrick. And again, I was trying to protect his privacy, which is why I didn't want Ms. Jackson to hear this information. I mean, certainly Mr. Walker is free to tell her when the turnout date would be, obviously, but for this part of the discussion, I don't think it's necessary for Ms. Jackson to be aware of what Mr. Patrick's situation is. She is certainly entitled to know when the turn-in date would be.
I'll just remind counsel, as I say, under Marcy's law, the victim is entitled to be present. And I will also remind counsel that this is a public court proceeding that's being live streamed on YouTube.
All right, Daryl, just can you give me, without disclosing all the particulars, so let me understand, Mr. Patrick is currently somewhere receiving treatment, is that correct?
That's correct. And
Right.
again,
and
I will.
Let me just say, I mean, obviously,
I will forward the treatment.
I was aware that he'd been hospitalized, so this is not a surprise to me. I thought this might have been raised earlier during the when it came to my making a determination about his bond, but he's receiving treatment somewhere. How is this a place where he is voluntarily permitted to leave?
I'm not exactly sure, but I do know, and I've not reviewed the treatment plan thoroughly, but according to Mr. Patrick, and I will send a copy of the treatment plan to the court as well, but they do want him to be in treatment for up to 6 months.
Well, and again, is this something that's voluntary, or because if he can leave at any time, then that's problematic?
Is this a voluntary situation, Mr. Patrick, or is it something where they're more or less insisting that you need to be there?
They say that I'm required to be here. I can't just up and leave, which is why I'm still here. And I plan to, I'd like to continue to get my treatment.
Your Honor, as you know, unless the defendant is under court order to require him to be there, any program is voluntary. This motion was originally filed back in November. It's now almost March. This revocation has been reset time after time again. We have heard direct testimony from the victim where she feels threatened. Even though he's in treatment, she made me aware after the hearing that he still views her social media. The defendant has continued to contact her while she's out on bond, and the state is requesting that Mr. Patrick turns himself in to the Fulton County Jail within the next 48 hours, as his bond has already been revoked for the violent contact that he has made.
Well, again, I can understand the state's concern, but I don't want to do anything to derail the progress that Mr. Patrick is making. I certainly don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize his health going forward.
All right. Would the state permit me to have a private conversation with Mr. Coleman and Mr. Patrick about his situation?
I mean, that would be ex parte communication.
I know, and I'm just, I have concerns about this being further, we are on YouTube Live. So I do have some, even though he's a defendant, there are some protections that he is entitled to. So I'm a little concerned about going forward. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Mr. Coleman, by 5 o'clock today, I need something from whatever facility Mr. Patrick is in to email me. He needs to give them permission to.
And I just want to make sure, Mr. Patrick, are you listening to this? Because again, you're going to have to be the one to initiate this with the facility.
You're going to have the facility send to Mr. Coleman, and Mr. Coleman will get it to me and Mr. Walker what the treatment plan entails, the specifics of the treatment plan. And then I'm going to make a determination about whether or not I'm going to permit him to stay and receive treatment. If I do that, there will be some very strict parameters. In other words, if he leaves, we're to be notified with, ASAP. If I don't know what ability he has to have access to computers or telephones. So I'm going to need to fashion an order based upon what my understanding is of his treatment. Now, I'm not making a decision today as to whether or not I'm going to require him to turn himself in. I know that was my initial ruling, but I do want to have an understanding. If I am comfortable that he's going to remain in treatment for the period indicated, let's say 6 months, and I'm immediately notified upon his release, and or I have certain parameters about his ability to access the internet and phone, I may permit him to stay in treatment. Obviously, I do know again that he was hospitalized. I even heard from Miss Jackson that when the incident occurred, she had concerns about his mental health. And so I don't know, is his behavior, related to a mental health condition or a medication or a failure to be taking medication? These are all things I don't know. But if he is able to continue treatment and not have contact with Miss Jackson, so let's just, let me put it to this way. The alternative is to revoke his bond and he would go to jail. And I don't have a problem with that. Initially, that was my thought. If he goes to jail and we're not going to have trials for several months and he decides he's going to enter a plea and an SAP calendar, the general requirement would be 6 months of domestic violence training. Now, if he's got other mental health issues, that may or may not resolve this. If he's willing to do 6 months of mental health treatment, that might, and I'm not saying he may not in the end also have to do the domestic violence, but to me, this would seem to be an opportunity to address some of the underlying concerns. And again, I don't know if this was done, I'm assuming this was done voluntarily. He was obviously hospitalized for a period of time, which we're all aware of. So what I'm going to ask is that Mr. Patrick get, before the end of the day, have someone from the facility email or fax, probably email Mr. Coleman and Mr. Walker. Once it gets to Mr. Coleman, then Mr. Coleman, you'll send it to me and to Mr. Walker. And then from that point, probably tomorrow, I would do an order addressing where we go from here.
Okay, Your Honor, just for purposes of perfecting the record, I would like to go on record so that the state would object to that. The victim has recently made me aware that Mr. Patrick accessed her social media as late as yesterday. I'm assuming he was still in treatment yesterday. The victim is there, and I did not get into his criminal history because it was not the basis of this revocation. But I believe that Mr. Patrick is a multi-state offender with other DV charges out of various states. So he does have a history of domestic violence. So the state is more than concerned for Ms. Jackson's safety, not only based on his history, but obviously based on the subsequent incident where he did pull a firearm on her, and there is an open felony case pending. And I would just go on the record to state that the state would object to anything other than him turning himself into the Fulton County Jail. And the last time I checked, the Fulton County Jail does provide mental health services.
Okay. I understand. And again, I'm not making a decision yet. I want to see what the treatment plan is and sort of a diagnosis and what the specifics are about where he is and what he's undertaking. After I take a look at that, I will make a decision and issue an order about either when he has to turn himself in or letting him remain in treatment. And that would also require, now that I'm thinking about it, updates to the court monthly, no access to phone or internet. Those are certain things. And obviously, if he, at any point while he's there, violates any of the terms that are laid out in the order that I do, I will send someone over there and immediately have him arrested. That I can promise you. But I do have to consider not only Miss Jackson's safety, but again, if Mr. Patrick on his own is attempting to deal with whatever mental health issues he might have, and if he's in a contained environment and is potentially going to be there for 6 months, that may be a better alternative than having him sit in Fulton County Jail for 6 months. So, but I understand. I will, once I get the information by 5 o'clock today, tomorrow I will do an order and I will send it out both to Mr. Walker, Mr. Coleman, and also to Miss Mitchell, so that everyone understands what the parameters are. Okay.
In the meantime, did the court want a copy of the treatment plan that Mr. Patrick sent me last week?
That would help. Anything you can send me, but obviously I'd like something more current by 5 o'clock today. So I'd like something more current, but send me what you have.
I
So
will.
send it to Miss Hardy and to Mr. Walker. I think everyone at this point, again, we're on YouTube Live. I don't want to go into any further details about Mr. Patrick's potential condition. You know, even if we were here in open court, it might be that I'd remove everyone from the courtroom. I mean, there are certain
Privacy concerns.
Thank you, that we still have to try and adhere to, even though he is a defendant. So thank you, Ms. Jackson, for your cooperation today. You'll get a copy of the order from probably Mr. Walker, and you'll know what the terms are, as well as Mr. Patrick. And I'll issue something tomorrow once I get, but I need it by 5 o'clock today, Daryl.
Okay. So Mr. Patrick, again, you understand what we need from you to do today?
I do. I actually have I have an appointment with my psychiatrist at 4 p.m. today.
Okay. And again, you also understand that I'm going to have to share that treatment plan that you sent me with the prosecutor as well.
I do understand.
All right.
All right.
My only issue is I'll be in that appointment and I don't know. I assume I'm going to need to get information from them, and the appointment will probably go at least until 5 p.m. today. So
Well, as soon as you can get it to me.
Just as soon as you can get it, you know, let me just say, before midnight tonight, so I can get it and look at it tomorrow morning and
absolutely
make a determination about whether or not I'm going to agree to let you continue that treatment, and if so, what the parameters would be.
Understood.
Okay.
I understand, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have any questions, Ms. Jackson, at this point? Okay. All right. Cute dog. All right. I'll get an order out to everyone tomorrow. Any questions, contact Ms. Hardy and she'll get that to me. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you all.